I've got these denim shorts that I've already took the pockets off for another project, and just scraps of denim and scraps of fabric and even the seams of denim. I'm going to make something with them. I'm not sure yet, so we'll see what happens. Stick along and see how it turns out, and let me know what you think. The first thing I want to do with the shorts is just open up this seam here. Normally, if I'm doing a lot of unpicking, I'll use razor blades, the one-sided razor blades, because it does blunt the seam rippers. And then the same for the back piece. I only want to unpick this part here where it bends. So I'm going to start it from about here. You have to get it out of the loop, grab the tail and just pull. And that's great for waistbands, to get them off quickly. Any of the seams that have got this link seam, and then just pull it open. That cool? And all you've got to do is grab hold of the thread this side, and that pulls out also. Pull everything up to the top and clip all those together. So I'm going to flatten this side and pull this side over, and I'll just put a pin in that on this side for now. I'll take that out shortly. Regular school glue, and I'm just going to put a bit on the sides, and that'll just hold that down. And do exactly the same, put a bit of glue down there and down there, just to hold that in place for now. Line it up with one of the lines on my board. I'm going to mark 1.5 inch line. I actually have no clue what I'm doing here. Okay, all that's sewn down. What I want to do is open this seam, and I want to open it about 6 inches, so from there to there, and the same on this one, so from there to there. Can you see this fold here? I want to press that down flat. So I've got an old wool men's coat, so I'm going to cut off the sleeve, and I want to cut out these pockets. So I'm going to cut, follow the pocket line, but leave at least 1/4 inch from the seam line. Press under these raw edges. So I need to cut 2 6-inch square pieces of wool. This is under, but on a roll. You could use glue, don't have to use this. I just want it stuck down neatly. So I'm just going to zigzag down where the original pocket seam was. Now for this top piece, I'm going to go and see if I've got some lace to go under there. I quite like this fan shape. So I'm thinking if I cut that off and put that in there, so I'm going to repeat the same this side, and then I'm going to finish top stitching all the way around. 8 inches. So I'm going to cut two 8-inch squares. If your fabric's directional, do it along your top edge and draw a 1-inch line. The same for this side. And fold the fabric down to that 1-inch line and give it a press. Now I'm not going to top stitch those down yet. I want to put these right sides together. I'm going to draw a 1/2-inch seam allowance. Now I'm going to go and sew that together. I'm going to repeat that again, so I'm going to sew 2 of those. Fold these back over and press these back down. And now I'm going to insert these into this. So I'm not sure which is going to be the best way to do it. So let's turn it inside out and see. I should be able to go and top stitch that on my sewing machine. So let's see what that looks like. So from the inside, it looks like that. From the outside, you've got a nice big pocket there, and I'm going to put a press stud to close that down. I'm going to sew this seam up on the machine and then add more applique. I'm going to add a road and decorate around the edges. So the measurement of the top here, I cut 4 pieces of fabric, 2 lining and 2 outer, and I cut them 2 inches longer than the length here, and they're all 2.5 inches wide, and also I have a zipper that's the same length. Take the lining with the right side facing up, take your zipper also right sides facing up and line the edges together, and then take your main fabric, your outside fabric, and lay that right sides facing down. Clip them all together like so you've got a zipper sandwich, and go and sew that down. And repeat that again for the second piece. First of all, I'm going to just level it all off. So now take the outer fabrics and pin those in place. I'm folding the zipper to the opposite side. I'm just going to pin that down, and now the zipper, I'm going to push that in to the opposite side just to get it out of the way, and pin that down. And what we're going to do is sew as far as we can up to the zipper, and then sew as far as we can up to the zipper. We're not going to sew over the zipper. There's the hole there, look, on both sides, the lining and the outer. So what we're going to do is close that hole up now. So open this flat, I'm going to pin that down just to help, and then open this out the same, and where the stitching stops we're just going to sew a straight line across there and trim back the excess just a little bit, get rid of some of that, and this one. And now fold it, bring the lining up, and I'm going to sew all the way around, just baste the lining and the outer together all the way around the edge. Now for the handles. So I've cut 4 pieces of fabric, 2 different styles of denim because I want to do a contrast strap. So I've cut this one. This is 3 inches wide by 26 inches long, and I have 2 of those. And these are 2.5 inches wide by the same length, 26 inches. Now I've already done these 2, so I've folded the raw edges into the middle and give them a press. We're going to do exactly the same for these ones, folding the 2 raw edges into the centre. You could draw a line down the centre if you was unsure. So fold into the centre and press that down. if I can do it, and give that a press, and do that all the way along. So we have 4 strips, 2 of each, with the raw edges folded in. Now that I have all of these pressed, I'm going to fold these ones with the wrong side facing up, and these ones we're going to lay on top with wrong side facing down, and just centre them, and that gives you a small 1/8 of an inch either side. And we're going to top stitch down both of those long edges, and repeat the same for that one. So take your strap, I'm lining my bag up on my board, I'm just eyeballing it, and I want to put the handle right sides, I want this as my right side facing down, and I'm just like bringing it in just over a couple of inches on both sides, and I'm going to mark that, and I want my handles down below this waistband here. So I'm going to put them in along that line and pin that down about 1/2 inch past this waistband here, because that's where I'm going to join the lining. So yeah, baste those down. So I'm getting closer. I've put snap fasteners on these back pockets, and now I think I've got to do these. So I found this necklace at a thrift store, and I want to use it as decoration on the bag, and I want to put it underneath these loops before I sew them down. So what I thought is the longer necklace, this one. Have you finished? So I'm happy with that chain, and I've sewn it on under the tabs. I'm going to put this aside just for a minute and work on the lining. And there's 2 of those, and I want to put a zipper pocket in as well. So let's put one aside. 21 inches long by 11 inches wide. And now we're going to find the centre, draw a line straight down that centre mark, 2.5 inches I think. Because I've drew it on the bottom, I'm putting the ruler along that top edge line. I'm matching up the centres, but I'm moving it up 1 inch up the ruler, so underneath I've got 1 inch from the top. I'm going to redraw that. So it's a 10-inch rectangle that's 1/2 inch deep. So I'm going to go and sew around that rectangle. Now I've sewn that rectangle, I'm going to draw a line straight down the centre. Actually, I'm just going to cut it, but I'm not cutting all the way to the edge. I'm going to trim, because I can't see the lines, so I'm just doing it. I'm going to cut into the corners without cutting the stitches at a diagonal. So like that. And the same for this side. I'm sorry about that noise. My dog chokes when he drinks water. Bless him. I'm just going to give that a press, push the pocket through the hole and bring it out to the front. Now this fabric, it doesn't matter what side, it's right and wrong, but if you need to have pushing it through to the back, so you had your right sides together if it was a right and a wrong fabric. So this would be the wrong side now, facing up. And we're going to press all the way around that pocket, rolling the seam over onto the inside. You don't want the seam on the outside, on the right side of the fabric showing. Give that a good press. So with your fabric right sides facing, so centre your zipper within that space and pin that down. Now you want to make sure that the zipper pull is in that space, otherwise you're not going to be able to open it. And top stitch all the way around that zipper. Bring the pocket edges up, and we're going to sew these 3, but we're not going to sew it to the outside. We're only going to sew the pocket to the pocket, so we're not going to sew through the bottom fabric. Alright, now that we've finished the pocket and it's all sewn and trimmed, that's all ready. So now we need to get the second lining piece and put it right sides together. We're going to sew all the way around, but leaving a gap in the bottom. I'm going to press this seam open. We'll press all the seams open actually on the lining, and press this so that when we sew it afterwards it will just fold pretty easily. And I'm going to press it this way as well, so that this will go together nicely when we flip the bag out. What I want to do is put the casing inside the lining and pin that all the way around the edge. So matching up the side seams and then pinning around the top. I'm going to go and baste the lining and the zipper casing together. So I've sewn the zipper casing to the lining. I have a hole in the bottom of the lining. Now this is where it gets complicated. I want to keep this waistband on the outside of the zipper casing. And obviously all the raw edges have got to be on the inside. But there is a way to do it, and I'm going to show you how. So follow along if you want to know. But it's not going to be, it's going to blow your mind, because it did me. I'm going to flip the bag inside out. Make sure everything's down and out the way. But I want to make sure this is up and out the way. Oh, so I'm just going to pin this up out the way so it doesn't get caught in my stitches. Oh, fun, fun, fun. Okay, and this up and out the way. I bet you're thinking, what on earth is she doing? Trust me, I'm thinking the same thing. So if it doesn't work out, you're not going to see this part of the video anyway. Alright, okay, so I'm just going to mark in here, which I've already marked, and here, and then that's the front, which is there, and the back, which is there. Alright, so I'm going to take the bag and the lining and match them up like this. Now I'm making sure, I wanted the zipper pocket on the back of the bag, and I know these pockets are on the back of the bag. So, and all I'm going to do is tuck the bag into the lining, and I'm going to overlap where I've got my stitch here, making sure that that stitch is past the waistband here. I've got to tuck the handles up, so everything is backwards. So making sure the handles are up, the seams where I've sewn here is past the seam there, so they don't show on the outside. Do the same here, pin that down, and just go all the way around the bag, pinning it down. And I think I'm going to sew it from the front. I'm going to transfer the safety pins to the front of the bag, and I'm going to sew just under this seam all the way around the bag, and we'll see if it worked. So wish me luck. The first thing I've noticed is I've sewed these down and I've got to sew underneath them. So now I've got to unpick these again. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll get going. Oh, I've got my zipper foot lined up against this seam, and I'm just sewing, and hopefully it's going to work. I'm just going to continue around the bag following this seam line. Yay! It actually worked. So the zipper does up, and that gives me a nice top of the bag there. Now I've got to attach the handles to this waistband top. I'm just going to, in fact, I'm going to put a pin in it. Pull this up straight, put a pin in there, and the same here, and the same here. And now that I'm happy with the top of the bag, I'm going to sew down all of these again, and then sew across there on all 4 handles. Now I'm cheating a little bit here. I found this was too thick to sew down on my regular machine, so what I'm doing is just putting a little bit of glue underneath the fold to keep that closed, and then I'm gluing them down. Let me just make sure that's underneath, otherwise I've messed up again. And put a bit of glue on there and put that down where I want it. And I'm going to do that to all of them. You don't have to sew everything down on the sewing machine. and I've already done the others, so yep, they just look normal. They've got the original stitching on. So I'm going to flip the bag inside out, make sure everything's where it's supposed to be. And now all we have to do is sew up the bottom of the bag and box the corners if we want to do that. So let's open the zip, if I can find the end of it. Okay, so the bag is now open, completely open, and I'm pinning down this bottom edge, and I'm going to sew this down 1/2 inch seam allowance. Now I want to box the corners, so I'm going to measure from the seam line and this folded edge here 1 inch. And sew all those 4 corners. One of the things I like to do with the corners of my bags is tie them into the bottom of the bag so that the lining doesn't pull out of the bag when you take things out. So get the bottom of your bag where your corners are and lay that flat, and then get your lining corners and lay those flat, and you want to join those 2 seams together and those 2 seams together. So you have to flip the lining over so that the seams are facing each other, and pin that down. And the same this side, pin that down. And now I just want to baste within the seam allowance of those 2 corners together. Okay, so I've sewn the corners, and as you can see, they're joined now, the corners, the lining and the outer bag. All we have to do is turn the bag right side out. So find the opening in your lining and berth the bag. So you want to push it through the hole. Take your time, it can be awkward. And the thicker your bag, the harder it is, but it will go through eventually. Just keep working it. And pull everything out. Make sure that the outer bag is tucked well out of the way, and get your linings, and we've got to close up that hole. I'm going to sew that on the machine. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, please give me a thumbs up, like, share, subscribe, all of the above. I really do appreciate it, and hopefully I can continue making these videos for you. Thank you for watching. Until next time.